Facebook, possibly. And Periscope. See if Facebook is even doable right now. Man, it's moving slow. We'll try it though. What up, Gav Grant? What up, 531 Liam? What up, Tokyo? A damn elder is in the building. What's going on, everybody?
Hello.
We're here to do a little Brograph breakdown with Adam Elder today. A damn elder. Spiffy.la. We're gonna go into one of his projects. You want to give us a rundown of what that is?
Yeah, sure. So about a year ago, I guess, around a year ago this time, I was we made the decision to get into Redshift. We're longtime V-Ray users, V-Ray for C4D, and at the time I felt a little rusty in cinema. I had spent so much time in Nuke and kind of transitioning to that. And my whole world was just so much Nuke that I felt really behind in the Cinema 4D stuff.
Yeah.
So
I was in that position at once a long time ago. Kind of got away from 3D and was like, man.
Oh, it's the worst because you see people talk about these cool things and they're playing around with, you know, things that you have no idea about. Yeah, I just felt like I needed to get in there and just make a list of everything that I felt unsure about, and throw as much of that into a project as possible.
Yeah.
While also learning Redshift. So it was just total learning under the gun by fire. Just kind of worst case scenario. Like here's a bunch of stuff that you don't know, figure it out. So around that time, Andrew McFarlane, VaporStack, he happened to 3D scan a GlowCat, which kind of became a thing in certain circles. So I figured it wasn't anything too serious, you know, something that I could
Mess
kind
around
of
with.
mess around with, take a little lightly. Um, and yeah, so made this GlowCat thing. So it was a minute long piece, uh, but
Should I show it? I guess I should
yeah, I
show it.
guess it's a good time to show it. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, let me bring it up here. We can watch it.
Like a cat. Talk like a cat. Dancing like the cat in the sky. The cat in the sky. Walk like a cat. Talk like a cat. Dancing like the cat in the sky.
Yay! We need like the applause track at the end. Sweet.
Yeah.
Man,
So
I already
you know,
got a lot of questions.
yeah. So you know, it's nothing mind blowing, right? But it was just a pure exercise in throwing the kitchen sink at a project. Everything that had given me major issues with the renderer in the past,
Mm-hmm.
and just doing something that was of a production runtime. You know, something that was a minute, something that had editorial, so we had to manage multiple shots, and just to kind of see what we would be looking at. And we were also getting Redshift farmable in-house,
Mm-hmm.
so kind of fire testing that. And it was just kind of a dry run production to make sure that we were ready to take on something like this. Well, you know, something a little bit more commercial, and knew what kind of workflow, render times, etc., to kind of base our estimations around.
And this was all done as one scene too, right? That was kind of the goal.
Yeah. So one of the things that was on the list of things I felt rusty on were takes. So
Yeah.
I was thinking, I'm going to do this, and it was just me on it. And I was thinking, I'm going to use takes as kind of a shot management system, which apparently is unorthodox, and that's the thing that people that work with takes and stuff, as soon as they hear that, they have a lot of questions.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that it was partially just that my understanding of takes was a little off when I entered, and I ended up using it in an unorthodox fashion.
So were you using it to do individual camera shots or?
Yeah, so basically the workflow was that, well, first I had to come up with the concept of you know, how was I going to fit all of these goals and certain problems into a particular single project. But yeah, it ended up being where after I did the animatics and conformed the rough, I took the Cinema 4D project and then referenced the AE project, and for each shot that was a pre-comp, log wrote down the in and out points for each one, the frame numbers, and then set up a take for each shot while it was still a blank cinema 4D project otherwise. So just straight from the get-go, it was just 48 takes with 48 cameras and 48 render settings. And then I just started populating it from there. First working on the main take, and then as I went into the animation phase, turned on and off objects as needed.
So as far as cameras, you weren't using a stage for the cameras.
No,
I know a lot of people do that. So this
that was like my old way of doing it. Right?
Yeah,
I think everyone's. And then
which is fine and it works okay. It just is such a pain to set up a stage.
It's a pain, but it's also not modular. It's you end up, because you're essentially just cutting cameras, and that's one way to do it. And I could still, I suppose, set up a stage now and then just animate visibility or something of each cat. But takes was far easier, especially when it came to render time. I was able to send a fix for this one shot to the farm at the same time that I sent a new shot that was 5 sequences down, or five shots down in the sequence.
And it's better to have all that stuff together, because when you have stuff in multiple projects, if you're trying to do different shots in different projects, if you change, one part of a scene, it doesn't change in all the other files, unless you got some sort of XREF thing going on. But
XREFs are cool. They have their issues, especially when things are animated. But I think there were things that could have definitely been XREF'd in this. But I didn't do that on this project.
I noticed that you had a lot of subsurface scattering. That's the first thing I noticed, of course.
Yeah. I mean, the things I wanted to fit in there were just, so the challenges I was trying to give myself were, aside from Redshift, doing indoor lighting. So many lights inside. There's an HDRI in there, but it doesn't really act as any kind of source of lighting. It's just kind of to provide a peek into behind the curtains when those are barely visible at times, like the overhang lights coming on. So the HDRI that's there is just kind of like more of a dome texture. It's not really provided with kind of light sources. So it was so many lights and lasers.
Yeah, seriously. Like doing all those lights in Octane would be super grainy, right. That's for sure.
Yeah, so that was like one of the challenges I wanted to give myself. Lasers, which was something that was extremely difficult to achieve without cheating it, without being just a piece of geo that was illuminated with some translucency or something. These are the lasers in here because I wanted to actually hit the cat and actually have a reaction and hit other surfaces. So I wanted it to be real light, and that has always been almost. I don't know. For me, it was something that I could never really hit. So it was something that I wanted to make happen in this. SSS, obviously, mainly just in translucency, just in the cat, just because that's caused so many insane render times in the past. Use of GI, volumetrics, TFD. I've been using TFD for years, but not in conjunction with a third-party renderer. So that was another thing I wanted to make happen. It was always where I'd have to render the TFD using standard render and then comp it in a separate pass. So I wanted it integrated in there, which I hadn't ever done before in any render engine. So that was one of the challenges. And then in-camera depth of field, I was hoping that the redshift was fast enough to where I could do that. I know that it's still a little bit of a waste, but you know, the post depth of field, it just bugs me so much. I can see it. I can see that halo edge and stuff. So I prefer to do it in camera. If and when possible. I totally understand the production reasons why that might not be the best idea, but my thinking is that with enough horsepower in-house to be able to render this within a reasonable time frame, maybe we can start thinking about moving that into proper 3D, into 3D camera world. So giving that a shot. And then, yeah, just the challenge of having this minute-long, you know, heavily edited sequence as a project that has a lot of visual syncs and audio syncs happening to it. So we don't have to, so I wouldn't have to render out a lot more than needed for each shot, just so I could play around with editorial after they're rendered. I wanted to get everything kind of figured out before I even started in C4D. And so getting the music syncing with the light hits and the cat dancing and all of that meant that it had to be a single timeline in cinema in order for me to really wrap my head around it. I could have spit out, you know, chunks of audio, but it was just part of the challenge.
Right. So you want to show us some of your video, or not video, but some of your screen here, a little bit of your
sure
your computer and stuff. So you got some files in a few different locations, right? You got it on.
Yeah, I have. Well, let's see. Where do you want to start? I've got. So I recorded. Oh, by the way, it's so I was live streaming all of this. No one watched it ever. But throughout the whole process, I was live streaming on Twitch. And then recorded and published on Twitch. You know, that's all just real time of me working, so it's horrible to watch. But I sped all that up and tried to make a timeline here that we can maybe dance through. And then the project itself, and then a couple of Cinema 4D files. So I guess let's start with just the very beginning, because this was probably the most. It was the quickest. It took me. I spent 2 days, 2 evenings on it, and it was just freestyling the After Effects flow, or the animatics in After Effects. So I was basically just I'm just going through really fast on this just to kind of illustrate what I was doing here. Ah. So, you know, just kind of jamming out shots without any real idea of where I was going with it. I'd find a little piece of music, and then just take like a 2D temp cat and kind of puppet tool, and just enough to get me to remember what my idea for the shot is at that time. And just kind of make a timeline within Premiere and After Effects using Dynamic Link, so I could have good editorial, and just kind of get some animatics together. Once that was in there, took that from Premiere, imported it for each shot, made a pre-comp, came up with a naming system, and then use that to populate the takes. So if I bring up the takes here, you can see all my crazy 43 takes. So if I go into any of these, it would go to the appropriate camera and render setting, disable everything not related to that shot, and I'd be off to the races. The problem with this, though, it's frozen. I don't know what's happening. The problem that I was having with this was if I'd selected a take, say I selected take 31, and it was from frame 500 to 600, I'd have to still, and I know, first world problems, but I still have to, change my viewport here. And I tried to rig up in Espresso any kind of way to where when I selected my take, down here would change to the defined in and out points of my render setting. If anyone knows of how to do this, I would be very much appreciative. I tried all kinds of things, asked a lot of people, and never found an answer. So if I go to like frame 31 and then it's 1150, I have to do this for each time, and it's just kind of a drag when you're, especially towards the end, and you're just trying to finish out some shots. Yeah, this was this particular shot was actually a sim from Houdini that Daryl Bartley provided as a Alembic. He did 2 of these shots in this spot, or he did 2 of the cat sims. He did this, and then when the 2 cats come up and body slam. Those turned out great. Imported those as Alembic, threw in my lights, parented them, and it all looks great. It all looks matching,
So on your IPR down there, did you usually leave it like that just so you could get a quick view of what it looked like, or?
At certain stages, and it looks like some of my things shouldn't be red. But at certain stages, I would do this during any kind of look dev, or if I was playing with the camera, so I'd get my depth of field or whatever it is, kind of where I wanted it. But first, just the blocking of the shot, no. I would do that up in just the viewport.
So I'm not a big redshift person, so I'll try to follow along best I can.
Yeah, I won't
learning.
get too much into the weeds on that stuff. Yeah. And I was learning redshift at the time. Like this is all fairly basic stuff. I'm not doing anything too crazy in here. In terms of redshift, to talk about the cat, I think the cat's cool. So. One of the problems that I had with this, because it's supposed to change, just swing the hue. And the problem is that with the light, as you do that, see how it's like
it goes
in the saturation.
In between colors.
Yeah. It just gets muddy and like bleh. And I couldn't really isolate just the hue. John Bosley came to the rescue with a solution, and he rigged up this light. It's basically a Python controller. If I can find it. Oh man, go? Now I lost it. There we go. So yeah, he wrote this little Python script, and it just isolates the hue, so that we can pipe that into the redshift light and get a pure hue shift. So that was a huge help.
How does it? I want to know more about how that works. What's the?
Yeah. I tried to figure it out.
So he's got. Let's see.
He's got a Python node. So he's coming from my animation controller, and I have the hue property, and set and luminance on there. So he's taken those into a Python.
What does that Python script say there?
It looks like it's saying.
I can bring that up a little bit. There we go. Yeah.
So he's running some kind of like utilities operator. Oh, he's turning it from radial to degrees, the hue, and then I don't know. I can pretend I know what this does.
It's interesting to look at, though. No,
Yeah.
I like that though because I have had that problem before.
Yeah. It's definitely a nice.
I like the what is that? The variation control or something? Animation control. It says don't touch.
Oh, that's yeah. So I made the animation controller here, and this is where I basically just have my items, the properties I wanted. I think this don't touch for Python is just a.
I wonder what that is. So that's something John put in there.
Well, I mean, I don't know. Since it's not connected to anything, I'm assuming that it was.
I mean, not John. Bob. You said, was it Bob?
John Bosley.
Oh, John Bosley. Oh, okay. I don't know if you said John Bosley or Bob Wamsley.
No.
I always have such a hard time. Like, they're so similar.
Yeah, just I had my animation controller. So the Whoop path, basically, it's all built around a spline rig. So I could, animate this thing. I could also make the size of the path larger or smaller if I wanted them to do tight little things. That's all fine. It's just following a null.
That's pretty cool.
Oh yeah, I'll put that on the scale.
The Whoop scale.
Yeah, Whoop scale.
The Whoop scale.
Yeah, and then this thing was kind of neat. I was able to where was it? By playing with this, you could kind of get the cat to bob and weave its head. I think I messed it up with the. But, there's plenty to play around with. I put in headstand.
It's nice having all that stuff like pre-rigged and set up to go.
Yeah, it was saturation. So, don't test for Python. I remember now. This was to give it a starting point for the color.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, you have to have some sort of input in there.
Mm-hmm.
But if you touch it, then it's going to throw everything else off.
Yeah.
That makes
sense. This is all like almost a year ago, so it's just kind of not fresh on the brain.
Right.
And then yeah, it was just I had a couple nulls in here to animate the butt and then and the belly, so I can make it kind of loop and stuff. And, so this was my base GlowCat. And then I guess the other rig that took me a while was the laser.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how this works in Redshift.
Yeah, so it's actual light. It's not geo, which was kind of what kind of. But I just wanted this nice reaction, and I was looking for the stage lights look, so it would be spread out in the separate beams, but still a little feathered.
Now, how do those beams work when they're in Redshift? Because I know you can do that in Octane a certain way, like Raid Zero has a Redshift tutorial on that, but
I literally just put.
Oh, so it's a spotlight?
Yeah, I have a bunch of spotlights that are really narrow.
Oh, okay.
And they're going through 2 corridors, 2 walls, each one with very, very, very narrow slits in them. And so it's like it's just lights,
Are they squashed? Like, so how do they hit? We're still live. This says that we're broadcasting, but oh, there it goes.
Yeah, are we good?
Yeah. Yeah, so you can keep going. Sorry.
All right. But yeah, I don't know. At a certain point, developing the stage, that was the thing. So let me pull it up here. So for the stage lights in the background, kind of had just a pattern that I kind of wanted on the back wall of this concert stage.
Was that running as an image sequence?
Yeah, it was just an image sequence. So I just used my Animatic as a kind of a reference. Did this thing, exported it as an image sequence, built the wall. Let me get to that. So the wall is just geo with a bunch of holes, and then behind that is the emissive plane. I took off the dot pattern for that you saw in the preview.
Oh, for the background. So you just so you did the holes manually and put the.
I did the holes in, yeah, because I don't know. I think I just wanted it to feel more.
It has more of a real feel that way.
Yeah, it was just feeling a little flat with a wall. So this was actually quite, heavy the way.
Yeah, it seems like your system's handling the scene well, though.
Oh yeah. It wasn't too bad. The wall was probably the heaviest geo, with everything turned off. It's pretty light. Geo isn't anything crazy. I think the biggest thing was just the TFD sims. Those things got quite massive. I simmed for the whole. Oh yeah, I'm on a different machine, and those sims were on the whole. But yeah, this was it. Just had curtains. Tried to design the stage in taking cues from a cat, so these swashy tail shapes and. I just wanted to get in there and start making shots, So after this stage was built, it was just rock and roll, rinse and repeat, reference the animatic and what I did and the animatic stage of each of these shots, and tried to make a 3D-ified version. And yeah, there's just a bunch of rinse and repeat after that.
What about the song? Where did you get the song from?
I got the song from audiosocket.com. They have a lot of indie artists that doesn't sound like stock music. So it's typically my go-to. It was $100 to license a song for a personal project. I had 6 candidates or so, 6 song candidates, landed on this one.
That's pretty high, $100.
It's pretty low, I think. I mean, for you know, a custom track. I mean, I'm coming from, you know, commercial broadcast rates,
so like, well, I mean, I guess compared to maybe like Premium Beat or something, is there a difference in the licensing?
Yeah, but we didn't name one good track off of that site.
Brograph theme song.
Yeah. It's just you know, stock music tends to sound very much like stock music.
Yeah.
So I was trying to avoid that at all costs.
Well, luckily it's been a little bit better recently. I feel like 10-15 years ago the stock music stuff was really bad, like really bad, you know, because you didn't have as many options, and it was still kind of like getting over to like the internet side of things. You know, it does seem a little bit better than it was. It was just so cornball back in the day. At least some of these artists are doing stuff that sounds close to other music. You know, it was like such a generic take before, you know, like to have some sort of like quote unquote rock music that was just.
I'll admit that it's been a while since I've given it a proper fair chance.
Yeah.
It was, last I recall, it was a lot of ukuleles and clapping.
Oh man, that drives me insane. It's all ukuleles and clapping these days.
Yeah.
And back in the day though, it used to be all this stuff that would just make you cringe. It was so bad. And the problem with the ukuleles and clapping is that's what everybody wants for some reason. Hey, all these commercials now. It's just like ukuleles, clapping. It's like
maybe that's just us getting old and the new music is upsetting us.
It's like, I don't know. Sometimes I wonder if there's any other stock music besides that when I'm watching TV.
Yeah. Another thing about the stock music is, you know, Premium Beat is so popular in all of the similar sites. So I really wanted something unique that you know, I felt like, who else is going to license this song? You know? I mean, I'm sure there's other uses, but it seemed like, you know, it's not something that you're going to see somewhere else and call it out. So it was just the uniqueness factor. And the fact that, you know, the I don't know how the other sites work, but, you know, Audio Socket was, it's a lot of legit bands that don't have the big labels, you know.
Yeah.
They have albums and things, and they just license out their actual music for commercial use. So it's pretty cool.
So let's see, you got the song, and then let's see. Oh, we haven't really talked about the Animatic. We haven't shown the Animatic. Do you want me to show that real quick?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah, all right. Let me pull that up here. It was for your blocking. This is something that I tend to do as well, is this blocking stuff. Let's see here. Does this have any music? Yeah. This could almost be its own Flash animation right here.
Yeah, it was, you know, it was fun just being able to go in and freestyle something out. Just using Puppet tools and whatever, just got it done because it was just for me, you know, for reference later. So as long as I could look at the shot and remember, oh yeah, I remember what I was thinking, it's making sense, it cuts well together, just get the basic idea kind of sorted out.
That's always super helpful for me when I'm doing stuff like that.
So it's super helpful. It was good on this. I must say though that you know, so much about this process that made it so fun and great isn't really conducive to client work. You know?
It's because the client's not telling you what to do.
Yeah, yeah. But you know, like if this was for a client, this whole process of locking in the edit before I even go into 3D, I don't know how well that would fly. I mean, we can try it, but surely we're gonna end up redoing some shots with new timing and things, and doing it as this one cohesive project. I don't think it's really viable for an actual production case. But for me, just kind of because I had never. It's strange. I've never done a personal project before, ever. So this was my first time, just kind of, you know, just winging it, going through, hammering it out as fast as I could, on the fly. It was fun.
So let's see. Let's talk about the fog sims a little bit. The TFD. Do you have? I don't know if you have that in any of your example scenes or not, but
on this machine, I just don't have it.
I mean, if it's not simmed, it's no big deal. But
oh yeah, it is simmed. Let me see if I can load it here. Yeah. There we go.
Nice.
Yeah, it kept falling through the floor for some reason, and I have to lift it up. But yeah, I basically had two fog machine sources coming from the back. Let's give it a like.
Were they blowing? Okay, I see. So they were blowing smoke out.
Yeah. So maybe negative.
And since it's fog for a fog machine, you can leave it pretty.
Yeah, I just let it go for 2,000 frames or so, and then that's where frame 0 picked up, and it's just drifting. It's just doing its thing, colliding into these objects over time, just so gives it a little bit of variance. I don't know if it ended up mattering at all, but
how does that work when it comes to redshift? Is it pretty good? It's not noisy.
Oh, I thought it was great. It wasn't noisy or anything. No, it wasn't noisy.
Because it would be an octane.
Yeah, the problem I was having with it more. Why is it not showing up here?
Is it cached? Is it fully cached, or is it?
Yeah, it's cached. I'm probably just overlooking something silly. But,
well, it looks like you're getting some sort of light fall off there under the stage.
Yeah, that's the just the overall haze from the environment object. But
oh, okay.
I don't know why it's not loading.
So you just load that up as what in
Redshift? Yeah, it's not even it's not like exporting a VDB or anything. It's just having your container on there and then throwing I'm making a material for it, a redshift material.
I guess I'm curious more about like how that material's set up. So you've got like a graph for it.
That's it.
And it goes out to volume. So is there? Okay, so you have density controls like you would.
Yeah.
Does it have like voxel size controls or anything, or is that all driven by TFD?
That's the TFD.
Okay.
That's TFD settings.
See, I've been working with some of that stuff in Octane recently, and it's like you have to have the voxels set in both. You know, you could do like if you did 5 for the voxel size in let's say TFD, you could do 5 for the voxel size in Octane, but then you could bring that down even more,
and it would
and you would somehow? It doesn't really up-res it. It just I don't even know how to explain it.
So it's like throwing a low res image to a high res.
Well, it helps with the detail. I feel like a little bit. Like you can get a little bit more out of it by making the on-screen. I think one is more about like the sim, and one is more about the display, as opposed to Redshift. It looks like it's just all in one. So however you set it is how it's set. You know, you've got your voxel size there, set to 1 centimeter. Yeah. There are lots of quirks with the whole thing, but
I basically just said in the material here, I just wanted it to go to use the temperature channel of my TFD sim. Nothing too crazy here. I feel like this maybe, I don't know, it's been a while since I opened this. I can't exactly recall, but I remember there being a little bit more than this to it. The main problem I had with it was emissive textures. So like I had this ring here. It's currently red, but it should be purple. Some offline material or something. But this trim around the stage, that's just an emissive texture, and those don't have any reaction to volumes. They don't affect volumes.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I had to splice this out into a separate object, and then make a static mesh light referencing that geo. And then it works.
Does that apply to environment as well? That it doesn't respond to, or is it just volumes?
No, it totally just volumes.
Okay.
Or volumes not picking up on emissive texture lights. Right? So if I had fog around this, and we were kind of angled like this, I would expect this fog around here to kind of have this glow, but not over here. And that just wasn't happening until I turned that into a static mesh light. So it's just learning these fun and how to work around them. Yeah.
Cool. Got any other scenes or anything there?
I mean, just all the takes, after the first few, and this was kind of, at the end of things. I kind of had a post-mortem with myself, and tried to
figure out what went right and what went wrong.
Yeah, what went well. Was this worth it? Was this worth the time? Was this worth the energy and stuff? Ultimately, it was totally worth the time and energy. But for learning purposes. But I do wish it was something that was a little bit more. I wish I had done something that was a little bit more commercial, something that that clients could see and relate to and understand, and something used in the sales process later, because this thing is totally not a sales piece, you know.
That's still good for a reel or something, though.
For it, if I were like a freelancer going to other shops, maybe, you know, but in terms of selling to commercial producers and stuff, not so much. Because they don't really know what they're looking at, you know.
Right.
Not knocking on them or anything. It's not their job to go, ooh, look at the SSS and all this other, you know. No.
Right.
They don't care.
You could sell it as an advertisement for actual GlowCats. You know,
yeah.
Something you buy at Walmart in the little bin next to the checkout counter. You know, available at Walmart and CVS. You just put a title screen at the end and show a little plastic version of it.
Yeah, I was contemplating putting like a fake infomercial beginning to this to at least provide some context of, you know, the GlowCat on a turntable with the blue screen and the 1-800 number.
Right.
But I just didn't do it.
It almost needs like a keychain attached to it. GlowCat keychain.
Yeah.
You just advertise it as a commercial spot.
It's just such an inside joke thing at this point, you know.
Yeah.
People that know of these silly cat lamps and that don't. So those that don't are just, you know, they're like, well, that's the most basic cat rig ever. Like, are you know, because I'm not trying to do a character,
right?
You know, so, you know, this whole thing just turns into an explanation of like, if I'm trying to show it to a client, it requires too much explanation. So
right.
I just it's not a public facing thing really, or, you know, a client facing thing.
So what do you plan on doing next? Like, what's going to be your next educational project?
Yeah, I mean, right now I'm kind of poking around just for fun, just trying to wrap my head around AI stuff, because it was, you know, it's a buzzword that's kind of being used a lot now, and I just don't have a real understanding of what that means for visual effects or
right.
You know, it's just used in like, oh, AI can do it, done. And that's not at all the case.
I mean, maybe you could try out deep fakes.
Well, I did, yeah. I went down that road for.
Is it difficult to set up?
It was. So I joined this GitHub group, and they're all programmers, and I was such a pain to them that they made a .exe installer. So if you want to make, if you want to get into it, there's a nice little exe that they made, so they don't have to deal with the likes of me anymore.
Because everybody wants to try it, but doesn't necessarily know code.
Yeah, well, so the people that want to try it are other programmers, and so it's you know, and they're building on it. It's a very academic thing at this time, and it's why when you look into it, you see a lot of the same faces, because everyone that's working on it is using the same data sets, you know. So, and that's where a lot of the work is actually in curating the data sets and training it. So I went through that whole process. It's not fun, and it's not great. Like my ultimate verdict on all of that was that it's not anywhere near production ready. It's cool, neat tech, but we're not going to be seeing face swap stuff in our movies for quite a while.
Well, somebody did that one face swap that was like, they did the same face swap that someone did from a movie or something.
Yeah, the Superman mustache thing.
Yeah.
And so that was cool, but the thing is like, so the max resolution, and this is why I just say it's not viable for the time being. The max resolution on a deepfake, the face is 256 by 256.
Really?
Yeah.
So it's not dependent on what kind of sources you feed it or anything like that.
No. Well, so when you're training the model, you feed it thousands of images of your target, and you're trying to get various lighting conditions and camera angles, and so it has to load all those into the GPU memory, and for whatever reason, it's not just, the size of your image folder. It's a little bit more complex than that I can't really explain too well. But the way they have to program it is that it takes, you can define what the resolution is, and usually they say, please use 64 by 64 images or 128 by 128 images. And the highest I could get on a 15 gigabyte VRAM card was 256 by 256.
Wow.
In order for me, and it goes up exponentially. So in talking with them, with the programmers of this, I accidentally, what did they call it? Data bombed myself.
Oh God. That doesn't sound good.
No. It was something like I was trying to make a 1.8 petabyte file on my drive by loading in a 1080 by 1080 sources.
Jeez.
So it's just in order to get even HD medium res shots, right? So if we're talking like maybe a face resolution of 500 to 700 pixels in height, you would need a card that has 128 gigs of RAM.
Jeez.
So it's just not going to happen with the models and hardware that we have today.
Yeah.
So it's great for, it looks fine on the phone when you're going through Instagram stuff and you see a deep fake. It's neat, but it's not gonna be on a movie screen for a while. So at least the face swapping stuff. I know that the AI is being used. It was used
for other things,
other things, and then it was used for some. I haven't looked into it, but I know it was in Spider-Verse somehow.
But what about textures and stuff? I'm looking forward to whenever things can self-texture.
I mean, I think Substance is not AI, but that is, it's generative.
Yeah, like procedural stuff.
Procedural, yeah, that's what I was thinking.
I'm kind of looking forward to the day when you could put a bunch of, cubes or rectangles or something in the background of something and say, hey, make a city out of that. And it just kind of figures out, oh, here's where your buildings are. And then it makes textures as if those are buildings, something like that.
Seems like what was that thing called? SCGAM?
I remember there was something that would kind of do that in a 2D way. But, when you get to the point where in cinema you can just say generate background, and the textures are just there.
So that's the big thing about AI, though, is that, in order for it to be this magic out-of-the-box experience, it has to come with a really good, what's called a model. And it takes a long time to train this model. So AI is being used in our phones and everything for speech recognition and things now, but those are using predefined models.
Yeah.
Us as creative users are trying to harness AI
creatively
as a tool, and to do it in a way that makes sense for us and our particular use case at that moment. So that requires training and curating inputs and all of that jazz. So that's where the interesting bit is, and it doesn't make things easier. It makes the grunt work behind what the end goal is easier, but you still have to put in the labor of training this thing and curating the data and fine tuning it so that it can be repurposed and kind of that action that you're trying to speed up, batch it out.
How much of this would you even consider? Like some of it, some things that people do, I don't even consider AI. Like they'll say, "Oh, this is done by AI." It's like, "Oh, this is done by an algorithm." It's not even AI per se for half the stuff that's out there right now. Like it's a buzzword, you know. It was HD and then it was 4K, or it was HD, then it was 3D, and then it was 4K, and
it can be an overused buzzword, and then there's a lot of confusion between what is the difference between AI and machine learning. And you know, and I think that maybe we all, you know, society, we've all collectively started using the term AI a little too loosely, and then machine learning has the problem of saying, well,
yeah,
what's different between that and just a regular computer? Like it has memory, it receives instruction, and you know.
Those buzzwords like HD was used on like toothpaste and stuff for a while. It's like HD toothpaste and 3D white toothpaste and
HD vision sunglasses.
Like, yeah, HD sunglasses. It's like, ooh, 4K sunglasses. Ooh, I can see clearer now.
Yeah.
But pretty soon there'll be AI toothpaste.
Yeah, let me try to find this thing so you can like link it up or something. But that SCGAM thing is just like probably the most incredible and relevant you know, demo of how AI will affect us as artists in the future.
I saw one where you could kind of draw
that's
a building or something. Is that the one? Yeah, it's been so long since I've seen that, but it was a couple years ago. Any luck?
No. I'll do you do links after the show or something?
Yeah, I can put the links down in the
I'll find it and send
in the description. Cool.
But GitHub in general has been a cool spot to hang out and find new stuff, and they all have, each project has its own community, usually of developers, and developers of this type of stuff seem to be very welcoming to professional users like myself, or people, you know, like us, our crowd. I think, you know, we would be very welcome as test users and things. So it's great fun to go in, find stuff that interests you, and poke around. But coming back to your original question forever ago, what is my next educational project? Working on also a redshift test, but more of a true photoreal,
scene or something.
Scene replacement. Yeah. So a while ago, I shot this tabletop food footage, and it was in my kitchen, and I just want to replace it with a nicer, you know, kitchen that's worthy of a broadcast commercial. You know? So rotoing the table out and all that, and just gonna put in the keep the real food because that's the law, and then use the interior, and hopefully it's seamless. That's the goal, and that would be my actual like commercial.
Did you do an HDR or anything of that scene when you shot it, or?
No. When I shot it, it wasn't for this in mind. We shot it for something totally different and never used it. So I'm just repurposing the footage.
Cool. Well, anything else you wanted to go over, or is that it?
I guess if you said there were a lot of questions coming in, if there were questions or...
Yeah, if anybody has any questions, feel free to put it in the chat. And we'll put all those links, or any links that we have, into the show notes as well. Cool.
No takers. All right.
Looking at your notes?
No, I'm looking at the chat.
Oh, okay. No, I didn't see anything else in here, so. Cool. Well, we'll put this up on the YouTube channel, of course, you know, as a breakdown, so there may be some questions in the comments once people watch it non-live, so we'll keep an eye on that. We'll answer those questions in there. So
I'm always tethered to the internet somehow, unfortunately. So
and you're in the Slack, right?
I'm in the Slack,
Okay.
and yeah, I don't feel free to find me on all the other social things. I have accounts, but I'm not active there. So email, I'll respond to any email if you have questions.
Cool. Cool. Sounds good. Kent says he's going to show his kids the GlowCat video now. So. Yeah. Cool. And people want to find you on what's your website? What's your website?
Spiffy.la.
Spiffy.la.
LA is in Los Angeles.
Los Angeles. Cool. Cool. Well, we appreciate you being on. And until the next one, I'm Dave.
I'm Adam. Thanks for having me. Bye.
Later, bros.